The Cave Preservation Network, this is a brand new program of the NSS that really started just a few months ago. So we'll kind of get started here. Okay, so first, just in case anyone is watching this video and you don't know what the NSS is and you're not familiar, so the National Speleological Society, we've been around since 1941. It's the largest organization in the world that's working to essentially protect caves and environments and work on cave exploration. And a lot of it is making sure cavers can get together and learn from each other and make friendships. You know, many of us go to convention just to see people we haven't seen from across the country who are working on projects everywhere. So it's a great organization. If you like caves or are just interested in caves, go to caves.org and look more into that organization, because we do lots of cool projects, kind of like the one we're going to see today. All right, so who am I? Debbie kind of already stole the thunder from this slide here, but yeah, so I'm essentially talking to you today because I'm the Administrative Vice President, you know, the AVP, which is what everyone calls it, and that's what I'm going to call it for the rest of the presentation for sure. One thing that's not on this slide is, you know, the CPN was also kind of, had a lot to do with making it happen. Here in the Black Hills, kind of the history of that thing is that our local conservancy, the Black Hills Cave and Nature Conservancy, you know, we just acquired a new conservancy here, which is something that, you know, I'm very passionate about, and a lot of cavers are very passionate about. Cavers acquiring more caves, you know, so we recently did that. We acquired 7 caves here, and we had a local show cave that we're great friends with here in the Grotto and the local caving community, and he and I kind of worked out that they would do a program where they would raise money to support this conservancy. And when I became AVP, I thought, well, this is a great program. It benefits the show cave, and it benefits the caving community, and it benefits the caves. So let's see if we can make this happen on a larger scale. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is how that works and how that goes. And if you guys have any questions at the end of the presentation about Fort Stanton Cave or Jewel Cave or any of those places I've been, I'll answer those too, but that's not why we're here. All right, so first, you know, the AVP role is kind of an odd one within the organization, just because there's so many different things that work for it. So here's an organizational chart, and mind you, just for this program, not for everything the AVP does. So it's just showing how these different things within the AVP world are working together to make the Cave Preservation Network possible. And so, like it says here on the slide, you know, I have 4 divisions of the organization that I manage, 2 commissions, including the NCRC, which is a very large, important organization. And within those, there are 65 committees and subcommittees and karst conservation task forces and all kinds of folks working every day out there across America to tell people about caves and protect people in caves and make sure that caving it can happen, you know. So all these people are really important. But for this slideshow, we're going to really focus on, you know, the conservation division. It relies on this program because we have a show cave programs coordinator. We're going to kind of look a little bit at what he's been working on here in a little bit, Ethan Olson. And we have the NCAA show cave liaison, which is Nicole, and she's here tonight on the Zoom call. So at the end, if you have questions for Nicole about the NCAA, the National Caves Association, or if I don't know the answer, Nicole was here and she will have the answer, or at least I'll pretend like she does or should. So, all right. And then the Environmental Education Committee, which for a long time had a different purpose, but we have kind of given that committee new life to work on working with show caves and the NCAA Education Committee to start creating new materials specifically to put in front of the public at show caves, right? And so all those are working together to support the Cave Preservation Network initiative and interacting with our show cave partners. All right, so first, you know, the Cave Preservation Network, and I promise this is the only slide I'm going to kind of read to you guys, but I think it's important to kind of focus in on what we're trying to do here. So this is a collaboration between the National Speleological Society and the National Caves Association, along with private cave hunters, cave explorers, cave scientists, and all those people who just love caves. And, you know, people are paying money to go to these show caves because they like caves, you know, so we want to interact with them because they like the thing that we like, you know. And so the goal here is to generate educational material be used at caves across the country to show to people, what is caving? Why do we love caving? Why are caves and karst important? And at the same time, to raise funds to protect these wild cave and karst lands for the future. And one thing that I think is important to point out here too is, Cave Preservation Network, we picked that as the name because we're trying to preserve caves and karst, and we're also trying to preserve access, right? Because both show cave owners and cavers, we understand why it's important for people to go experience these places. So we're not just preserving the cave itself, we're preserving access, and so it's caving in a way that doesn't damage the cave, but it's still caving, so that's important to keep in mind. Okay, so all that's really good, but what does that mean? So that's nice. It's a good theory. Everyone likes caves, but so what does that mean to us? So let's kind of look at how the program works. So first, the CPN itself, which, like I said, Cave Preservation Network, I'm going to say CPN, or I'll get tongue-tied by the end of this thing by saying preservation 10,000 times. So the CPN is an NSS-led program which partners, again, show caves and show cave owners. And if we ever find an organization that makes sense, that is also working in the cave thing and wants to be part of it, sure, we'll partner with them as well. We're not exclusive here. So the big people in this right now, though, are the NCAA, as I mentioned before, and International Show Caves Association as well, which I think in next month's International Show Cave newsletter, there'll be an article about the Cave Preservation Network, if anyone here gets that newsletter, which I do not personally. So yeah, so the NCAA, it's it's the largest group of private show cave owners in America. They have a vetting process for their show caves, so all of them are very well run. They're very safe. They're they like to say they're the best show caves in America, and I'm not going to argue with them because I wouldn't know how to say anything different. So they've been around since 1965, and I would tell you guys, I went to their convention, spoke about this program to them, and they were pretty excited about it. They're also a very friendly group, and it's kind of like entering into a big family. So it's like if you went to the NSS convention, everyone knew each other and were hugging each other, which would be, I think, an oddity for us if it was everyone. That it would be a lot of people. But yeah, so they're a fantastic group. And if you want to learn more about them or their show caves or kind of how they operate, their website is cavern.com. So that's the NCA. And then ISCA, or the International Show Caves Association, so this is a similar group, and their president is currently the owner of Natural Bridge Caverns in San Antonio, who is one of our members. And ISCA is a similar group, but on an international scale. I talked to those folks about this program in the beginning, and I told them, sure, if you folks want to talk about cave education and preservation and help us try to protect caves, we'll absolutely take any of your members who want to be a member. And so we're still kind of working through that because I only speak one language, but it is something on the horizon that I think eventually there will be international members of this program. So, all right, and then then the Cave Preservation Network members, as they stand, and I think it's important also to mention, this is an NSS membership class, and it was put into place by a board act, and so this membership class is set up for organizations only, and to be a member, you have to participate in this program, right? So these are all organizations, show cave organizations, that have said, hey, yeah, we want to help do this, and we think this mission is important, and we want to help. And then those folks are eligible to become members of this program, and that's done through approval by the executive committee, not just me, who's the AVP. So it's kind of an important thing to remember. These folks become NSS members. They can't run for office because they're organizations or vote, but they're NSS members as well. So these 7 caves are essentially the pilot program for the CPN. So, and all of them are kind of different places. Seneca Caverns doesn't have their material yet. Bluff Dwellers has been running since the very beginning with the fundraising. We're all kind of working through this pilot program that we're in to figure out how it works the best. And of course, as I mentioned before, Rushmore Cave is the original. They did the program starting in June of 2020. So, and they were very successful with it, and the public was very receptive to the program. So, okay. All right. And so some more about how the program works. So show caves, obviously that's what we've been talking about. It's really, like I wrote here on the slides, a match made in heaven. Show caves, they're experts. They're much better than we are at the NSS interacting with the public, because that's their business. That's what they do. They make their living talking to the public about caves and showing them the underground. And for most people like myself, their first time in a cave is in a show cave. My first cave ever was Smoke Hole Caverns. My second cave ever was Seneca in West Virginia, because that's where I'm from. And I, as a little kid, loved caves. So then when I grew up, I moved to South Dakota eventually, obviously. And the first time I saw a show cave, I thought, oh, I have to go to that show cave because I love caves. And then, eventually that led me to becoming a caver and, the AVP of the NSS and mapping miles and miles of Virgin Passage. And that's that's what we want to happen. We want these people to go to these show caves and learn, oh, the NSS is doing this. They're going to these places and get involved as early as possible, because, I would have loved to have started caving younger, So with that being said, though, so they see millions of visitors a year, and many of them are offering adventure tours or wild cave tours or whatever they want to call them. And so it's kind of like the next step from the show cave experience. And show caves, they care about cave conservation, education, and cave access and exploration, because that's their livelihood. And for many of them, like Nicole, who's here, that's her life's passion. She loves caves as well. That's why she works there. So they care about caves just as much as the NSS does, sometimes even more. So we're kind of in it together with this. And the NSS, as I think you can imagine, we're the other half of that puzzle, where we have, kind of the world's leading cave explorers, the most experienced conservationists. Like, we have all the cave rescue folks. We have amazing cave scientists doing stuff all over the world. And so we want to connect all this information, all these experts, with the people who can directly talk to the public about it. And that's kind of the basis of the program. The program, obviously, as we'll talk about later, has a strong fundraising component, because we're trying to do things to improve kind of the world of caves and caving as well. But if nothing else, if we just talk to these millions of visitors every year about caving and why karst is important, that's a win all by itself. That's half the mission that we can't forget about as we start talking about trying to do things together. So but anyway, so moving on here, just like the show caves have these wild cave tours, it's important, I think, that we present the next step from that to the world of caving, to get with the grottos. These local grottos, they can take someone that's been on a wild cave tour and loves caving to a cave that very few people have been in over time, and teach them kind of to improve slowly, incrementally, to cave safely and softly. So that's kind of the thing. We want them to be kind of led to these grottos, and hopefully eventually to the NSS itself. That's an important thing. And again, like I said, our membership obviously in the NSS cares about caves and conservation, education, and access, just like the show cave folks do. So we're a great team, and I think it's been a long time coming that we made a partnership that was stronger to start working together, to start doing things together. Okay, so how the whole process works, if you're a show cave and you want to do this, the show cave sign up, Nicole or I probably talk to them first, or Bob from the NCAA or another person who's part of the network. They talk to the show cave, we get them excited, and they sign up. Okay, and then that new CPN member, after a little bit of talking and explaining how everything works, is approved by the NSS Executive Committee. Okay, then they get all their stuff shipped out. Like, if you see behind me, this is one of the banners behind me. And if you look in this picture, so this is Rushmore Cave, obviously, and this is Kevin Chase giving a TV interview in front of kind of some informational stuff, and the banner, which has kind of like forced perspective, but it's 6 feet tall. So so they get all their materials, and then they start working to like explain to the public what's going on and why they're doing this. And the reason that this is important too is it's nice for the show cave to do this program. So it's they're helping us raise money to essentially like acquire more cave preserves and caves and protect them over time and karst lands through the fundraising. But it's also really amazing for them to be able to tell the public, hey, we're not just a business taking your money, we're also working to improve caves everywhere. So that's a great message for them to give to the public as they're coming through there. So most of our the members of this program are really passionate about doing that, and it benefits everyone involved. So anyway, so they get that material, they start doing that, they start raising funds to support this mission. And then the whole time, though, the education division is collecting feedback from them, because we want to make these materials better and more meaningful. We want to make new materials, and we'll look at a couple later of the new things we're working on. So it's a give and take. We're not just giving the material. We want to make better material and more meaningful material for the public, because, like I said, we're working with folks that interact with the public every single day, which many of us in the NSS do not. Okay, so let's look at some of the materials here. Okay, so this, even though it's kind of confusing on my screen, is the landing page for learnmore.caves.org. And Learn More is kind of the home page for the Cave Preservation Network, at least until the new caves.org website rebuild is complete. At which point it will probably revert back over to the main page and be caves.org/learnmore. But for now, this is where we go. So learnmore.caves.org, this is where you land. And at the bottom of the screen here, if you can see it, there's About, there's Education, there's Donate, and there's Contact. And if you click on Education, you can get the education materials, or you can get to our new guest speaker program, where you can schedule a speaker to come talk to your group. It's a expert caver to come talk to you about whatever you'd like for them to talk to you about. So this is the new landing, and there's a lot of information on this website about, if you want to join the Cave Preservation Network, or you just want more information, or you want to look at all the partner organizations and get to their websites, so you can see where they are, so you can go to their caves and visit them. That's all here on learnmore.caves.org. And with all websites, this is a work in progress, and it's going to constantly change and be improved. There'll be new materials put on there, but today this is how it stands. So, and then the materials that go to the show caves. So what this is here, and I apologize for the graphics of this sign. And if you can look in my little window of my person, this is actually the sign that this is a picture of. And you can see it's very large, and so when I shrunk it down, the background imagery got like kind of distorted. But I promise, in real life, there's a very neat background of like cave formations, but they just don't come through on this image. So this is what goes out to the show caves. And my intention of making this, even though I have not seen anyone do this yet, was to place this on an easel next to the display. Most folks do different things with it. But each one of these QR codes will allow you to download these brochures directly on your phone, right? And these are brochures that were designed by Cheryl Jones, and they're very high quality if you've never seen one. And they're also available in paper at each cave location, but we've asked them to not put them out, because many folks will just take pamphlets and just kind of hoard them and throw them away. And we don't want to be wasting paper or the money it takes to print them. So they're available on request, and it says that at the bottom of the sign if you can't read it. But we're not just putting out thousands and thousands of brochures, because it really doesn't benefit anyone. The other thing that's on the sign is the Cave Preservation Network brochure itself, and we'll look at a bigger one of those here in a moment. But the takeaway here is that these are downloadable materials, with the backup being paper. Okay, so if you look at this, this is the Cave Preservation Network brochure that's here on this slide. The next slide is the front page of it. So this thing was made originally to be like a poster that if the show caves wanted to, they could put it out as well. That's why it looks like this. And when it's folded, it folds in a Z, so that the NCA and the NSS pages are together. And if this was put in a cave that is not an NCA cave, we change the NCA stuff out, because we're not going to force that upon them, even though the NCA is our partner. So, okay, so this is the inside, and this is the whole point of this brochure is just to explain to people who may want to support the program kind of what it is. And obviously, if they want more information, they can go to the website and get it, or talk to the show cave staff themselves. But it's just kind of say like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're trying to do. If you want to help support this program. And I guess I kind of glossed over this, but if on the very first slide, it had a thank you to Dave Bunnell, because all the images and all the CPM materials are from Dave Bunnell, and he gives permission to use them, and we thank him greatly for that permission, because they're amazing photos. Okay, so the next thing here, so this is part of what Ethan Olson's been working on. These are absolutely in draft mode still, but there are 12 of them created, I think, at this point. And what these are they're heavily based on Val Worker's book, and Val knows we're making these. We're not hiding this from Val, but it's so showcase. If someone in a showcase just wants to do lint and hair removal, it's a very short, very direct explanation of the easiest way to do that and exactly what you need. So they're very short little pieces, 3 to 5 pages long. It's just for one task. So we're making these for showcase. It's something that we're hoping will increase like their ability to very easily do these very small conservation tasks within their caves. And if other folks want them as well, if you have a cave in your area and you want to know the best graffiti removal method, anyone from the public can have them as well, because you're just very short and direct for one task a piece. So these are, like I said, currently in draft mode, and they'll be coming out in the next few months for showcase and anyone else who wants them from this program. Okay, what these are, and it's not completely apparent by looking here on the screen, but what they are, the banner that's behind me and the banner that you saw Kevin standing with in that previous slide, these are what the banners that we have. These are 4 of 6 that we have available. It's kind of like the stock banners for the showcase to put up. Each one is 6 feet tall. As I mentioned, it comes with a stand, like the one you can see sitting behind me as I'm talking here. And they're pretty high quality and they're pretty neat. Obviously, we've got a lot of good feedback. Like I said, Dave Bennell Photography that he let us use it's excellent stuff. So, but we're not rigid. This program isn't a rigid program. We want to do what makes sense. And so, if a showcase wants to put its pictures on these banners, we'll put their pictures on the banner. So the 3 on this slide here, these three are photos provided by Natural Bridge Cavern Scissor, and all 3 of these banners are printed for Natural Bridge. And so they wanted their own images on the banners, and that's no problem. We can do that for any showcase who wants that. It doesn't cost anything extra to do that. So and again, you can see here, Kevin is standing with one. And again, the camera's at like a weird angle, so it looks shorter than it is, but it is taller than I am. So that's part of the kind of the kit that they get when they sign up. Okay, and so the next thing, and this is kind of a parallel project to the CPN, but this program is hosted on the Learn More at Caves.org website. What is it? This is Speleoguest, and Deborah Heyer, who's in this picture going down a hole in Fisher Ridge Cave. This is, she and I came up with this program to solve a problem, and that was that there was no good way really for a school to get a cave speaker through the NSS by just calling, because we didn't have everybody on tap. Now we have a kind of a cadre of folks ready to give talks on different topics. You can go to learnmore.caves.org, go to the education tab and click on request a Speleo guest, and that will get you an email to the committee that puts this together, and they will very rapidly pair you with a cave expert, or as close as we can get to the topic you want. If you want a hydrogeologist, we might force Gary Schindel to talk to you. So he's on this call. He didn't smile, so maybe he won't talk to you. But anyway, but we will pair. So far, we've had 21 pairings in this program. So we talked to many school groups. It's not just for school groups though. Like we're hoping to do more like civic organizations, and we're working on some showcase presentations also. So it's something that I'm hoping we'll get more and more showcase to do as well. Because how neat would it be if your school every Friday had someone speaking to you live from inside of a different cave around the country? Because many of the showcases have internet in their cave, which where else can you get that? So it's a really neat program, and if you want more on that, you can ask me afterwards. Or Deborah, I think, is here as well, and she manages the program day to day. Okay, so fundraising. I'm sure many of you had a question or thinking like, well, how does that work? How is this raising money? And so the program was initially built upon a round up at the register thing, which if you see here on the right, there's a little pamphlet that is at Bluff Dwellers Cave about rounding up their purchase of the nearest dollar for cave conservation. And a lot of people think, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're not going to make any money that way. Well, if you think that every person that comes to a cave gives you 30 cents, which you don't get 100% buy into this, but say if everybody gives you 30 cents and you get 10,000 visitors, then it obviously adds up to a fair amount of money, right? So that's kind of what it's based upon. And the goal here is not to take anything from the showcase, because they're a business. We're not trying to take their money. But we share a goal together that we both are passionate about caves and protecting them. And this is a way that we can work together to do that. You know, as I said before, they have the public interaction, and we have a great preserve system, and we have great experts that are willing to like come and talk to them and make education material and all these things. So it's a great way to work together to accomplish a common goal. So and like I put here, the important thing is that the show caves share in the success of the program. You know, whenever the CPN makes enough money someday to buy its first preserve, that's not just an NSS win, that's a win for everyone. That's a win. I mean, it's a win for the world, obviously, because we all agree, I think, on this end at least, that protecting caves is important. But I mean, it's a great thing that we're hoping will start to change the way that we look at the partnership. Okay, so all right, so we raise this money. All right, where does it go? Okay, the money goes into the NSS Cave Preservation Fund. Okay, and this fund again was created by a board act, and the fund goes directly to support the creation and enduring nature of NSS nature preserves and the preserves held by affiliate conservancies. You know, so as I said before, we think that groups that are protecting caves, it's an important thing. So the NSS isn't going to say, no, we're only if we can buy the caves that we want to help with this. No, we want, if there are groups out there that we're affiliated and they're great land stewards and they're trying to raise money to protect caves and acquire caves for caving and cave access and all those things we've talked about, we want to support them, and we have for a long time. And a lot of people are unfamiliar with how the NSS does that, but we have a great track record of supporting cave conservancies. And so it's for that too. And the secondary objective here is to learn more about these caves through some targeted research and to continue to manage them in a way that makes sense. You know, we don't want to buy 1,000 preserves and have them all be rinky-dink. We have to also maintain them in a way that's safe, in a way that protects the caves. So that's what the fund is for. And there are other funds that the NSS has that do similar tasks, and this is meant to supplement that with a very specific purpose to do these things. So I mean, all the money we're raising is going to go for these purposes. And there's no crazy overhead scheme here. Like it's made to do good. We're trying to do good, and that's what we're going to do with the funds. So, all right. So a little bit on NSS nature preserves. These slides have kind of a lot of text, so I'm not going to belabor you by reading them. But essentially, the NSS nature preserves are created as a commitment to the future for perpetual conservation, and as well as access for exploration, recreation, and research. So that's why the NSS preserves were created and they were started. So and each one of the NSS preserves is managed by a local team. These are not managed on a national level, and so they're there and they provide oversight and access, and they interact with the public, and they do a lot of cool things at each preserve. Like I said, we have an NSS preserve here in the Black Hills, and this is a picture of it. And so you can see some of the land is very beautiful, and this is a big canyon that is now an NSS preserve because of folks who just cared about caves and karst. Okay, so the organizational structure, again, this is the structure just for preserve management, nothing else. So don't think, well, I know Bill and he does this job. Well, this is just preserve management, so don't think it's anything else. So as you can see, there's a structure just like with everything else. John Wilson is the Cave Management Division Chief. He's here this evening, and everything kind of sits below him, except for the CPN, and it's under me just because it's under 3 different divisions of the NSS. So it has to kind of have a person that can interact with it that does all 3 of them. So okay, and so different kinds of partnerships here. So we've talked a lot about the Cave Preservation Network and how that is a partnership to work to educate the public and build more resources for preserves and conservancies. But so there's also partnerships within the conservancies themselves. What I call like the NSS National Preserve System, it's NSS preserves as well as all of the preserves and caves that are managed by affiliated conservancies, because the NSS supports those conservancies, and we want very much for them to be successful, just like we want to be successful. So if there are things we can do to help them, we always want to do it. So we'll kind of look at some different options on how that plays together here. So as I put here, there's 4 different types of NSS nature preserves and partnerships. And we'll kind of look through them briefly here. And I think a whole presentation could probably be done on different kinds of preserves and partnerships. But we're just going to touch on it because that's kind of the end goal of this project, is making those more successful and more plentiful. So, all right, so type 1, the NSS owns the preserve, right? So we care for the land, we manage the land, we protect the caves. If the cave has come from a previous owner, we try to honor that stewardship that person put in place, because many of these caves were donated to the NSS by a person who cared very deeply about the cave, and we want to make sure that is honored. And at the bottom of this, you can see there's a list of all of our many different preserves that we have. And those are all places where we're out there making sure these caves are perpetually protected, and we're managing access. We're not closing the caves, we're managing access to what makes sense for each cave individually. So they all have an individual management plan. Okay. Type 2, the cave is co-owned and co-managed. So this would be an instance where the NSS has an easement to the land, and a different group owns it. So it could say a conservancy owns the land and we manage it, but we have an easement. And there are some examples of this, but they're kind of complicated. So I'm going to kind of skip over that situation for a different discussion, because we could get into that for hours. Okay, so type 3 is much easier to understand. So a different group or private individual owns the cave, and the NSS manages it for them. And in this situation, there's usually it's a jointly chosen preserve manager that's an NSS member that is managing the land on the ground. And right now, we have Thunder Hole and we have the Dom Springs Preserve here in the Black Hills, where, our local conservancy owns the preserve, but it's managed by NSS managers and has an NSS management plan. And there's many different, as you can see on the right here, there's many different things that are done by each one of these groups. So in this case, the NSS offers funds for maintenance. There's web hosting provided free of charge for the group that owns the land. There's grants and donations upon request available as well. So there's a lot of benefits to having the NSS work with you to manage your caves. And I think that over time there'll be more and more of these that come up. And the last one is also a very common thing, and these are affiliated conservancies. And there are many of these, and there are many listed across the bottom. And if I've missed a conservancy, I greatly apologize, because there are many. So in this situation, these are groups that are essentially very close friends of the NSS. So they own the caves, they manage the land, they have an agreement of kind of mutual friendship, understanding with the NSS, and they give us updates of kind of what's going on. And we offer them grants and donations upon request, and they can also have free web hosting. And they're part of a roundtable where the groups share great management skills and knowledge with each other. And so it's a great understanding. Like I said, if these groups, if one of these conservancies has a great acquisition coming up and it's going to benefit caving and caves and protect caves, then we want to support them as well, because the mission is important, not specifically what group is doing it. And these groups are all very reputable, and they're showing themselves to be great stewards of caves and land. Okay, so back to the CPN now. So the future for the CPN, like I said, we've been in the pilot program and working on changing materials, getting new materials. And kind of our next couple of things that are coming out is going to be a exploration booklet. So it's going to be about the discovery of caves and why that's important. And this kind of gets at those people who go to caves and they love caves, and they're like, oh, this is very exciting. That they can learn about what I personally think is the most exciting part of caves, and it's finding more and new caves. So we have an educational piece coming out soon about that. And then if you can look on the screen here, we have a kids activity book that's CPN branded for the show caves. And this is just the front cover and one of the pages that I thought looked neat out of the book. And so it's going to be, right now it's an 11-page activity book for kids when they go to show caves. And this will also be downloadable and printable by any teacher group that wants it. The purpose is it's a learning tool. It's not a secret, So Secondly, so we're going to continue working with Ann Dunlavey, who's the committee chair of the NCAA education, and she has 30 years of educational materials that she's worked on, and now we've kind of started working with her, and there's more of a team, and she's super excited to work with the NSS because we have a bunch of people, and so we're going to start co-opting NCAA materials and NSS materials together for hopefully more and better, more exciting products. So that's going to continue, and I know for sure there's a meeting next week. So if anybody wants to be part of the NSS education team, email me or Deborah Heyer, whose email address will be on the last slide of this presentation. And finally, we want to build more partnerships. Nicole Ridlin, who's the NCAA Show Cave liaison, she's out there talking to show caves every day. She runs a show cave herself. So she's out there talking to more partners so that when we go live, hopefully we have new members to add to this program. So that's kind of the future of the CPN. So that's pretty much the information I have today, aside from obviously questions. And then this, as you can tell, is kind of the context of the thing. So many of these people are on this call today, actually. So if you have any specific questions about specific things, you can ask them directly, but I can answer most of your questions right now. And I will say this about this presentation, that this is a presentation I put together, but it is by no means like a legal document, or that you shouldn't take this as like the word of gospel, because it's a new program and it's changing, and there's lots of documentation and things that are happening behind the scenes constantly to make it work and more in line with all the rest of the policies of the organization. So keep that in mind if you have any of those types of questions, that things are rapidly improving and changing all the time.
All right. Well, thank you, Adam. Any questions? Anybody have something that they want to say? Please text and let me know. Adam's done a pretty good job at explaining this. You want to go back to your last screen, Adam? Go back to your last screen and leave that up. All right. Questions?
I can get it back. Hold on.
Now I see your face.
There we go.
Questions, comments? Anybody have anything to say? We've got the information. You want to put that full screen? You've got all the information on full screen, because that way they can write things down if they want. Remember, everything is recorded and will be stored on the NSS webinar, NSS website for later viewing. It says, are you adding to the media kit? That's one of your questions, Adam.
The kit that goes to the caves.
It says, are you adding to it?
Yeah. So that's the initial kit, and kind of there's a couple of different things that we're working on. One of the things that we hope to have at some point is kind of like a hands-on kit that you could do small programs with. So if you had like a thing right your shift, you could say like, okay, at 10 a.m. we're going to have this talk for kids. You could have like a thing people can touch. Those are the kind of things that we're working on as well. But all these different little pieces of the program, they just take a little bit of time to make for each one. So that's kind of the next step after those two pieces I was talking about that are coming out. Which, by the way, the sign that has the QR codes, when those two new pieces are done, will change. So those will be added to that sign. So there'll be a new sign for the road program from the pilot program as well. So there's always going to be slight improvements, and then there's been requests for a couple pieces of material from some of the showcases, and so we're working on those, trying to figure out like the logistics of making it happen. So there's going to be improvements to be sure.
Okay, awesome. Okay, any more questions for people? Adam's done a great job giving us the lowdown on this. If you do have any questions, you can email us at any time. And you've got all the information on the screen. Usually within about 48 to 72 hours, we'll have this up on the NSS website at caves.org. And then if you look on the left side of the front page of caves.org, you will see the webinars posted. Okay, here's one from Cheryl. It says, the NSS has always had the policy. Hang on, just skip that out of the way. Has always had the policy of not showing cavers touching formations since it can send the wrong message to people who don't know better. So I'm concerned about the brochure showing the caver on the large rimstone dam. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think, things like that, it actually gives us an opportunity to add in with that some information about, like I said, exploration and what's going on there, because in that photo, it's not a person that's screwing around. It's a person that is exploring it and is crossing that to get to somewhere else, right? So I think it's an educational piece that we need to make part of this program. But it's a great thought.
Okay, Gary wants to know what kind of funds do you think the program will raise each year, assuming there's no COVID, when that's finally out of the picture?
Well, yeah. So that is, that's part of the thing. That COVID, we ran the pilot program, and then there was a pandemic, and so we ran the pilot program during a pandemic in a business that is based upon tourism. So we're making money right now, but we're not making great amounts of money. And one of our show caves, and I'm not going to say which one, it was raising, even during the pandemic, about $1,000 a month. And while every cave is different, every model is a little bit different. It's very hard to say that, but I mean, even $100 raised is $100 more than we had before. So like I said, the outreach is also invaluable. So I'm not going to put a number on it, but I certainly think it's enough. It'll be enough money, certainly, to make a big difference in a lot of our programs.
And money also, when you think about the inroads and the good community relations and the bridges you're building, that is it's amazing. Okay, another one, and this one's good. It says, love the idea of make an effort to reach out to the public, and have you thought about partnering with Cave Sim? And that's another thing, is Cave Sim will be doing a webinar soon. Finally, they've gotten everything together. We're going to have a webinar soon on Cave Sim, because they're all about education. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so with both Speleogust and the CPN, I've had talks with Dave Jackson, who runs Cave Sim, many times about this program, and so there's certainly a lot of opportunity with the Cave Preservation Network to co-op with Cave Sim, because he's making educational materials every day. So I mean, there's a lot of things we can do with him once the program gets a little more robust and we get more kind of locations participating. And the same thing with Speleogust. Dave, I don't know if people know this, Dave makes webinar, like he does talks as well. So some school groups, he'll come talk to you for free about caving as well. So, and he is on the list of Speleogusts. So there is a chance, if you ask for a guest speaker, you might get Dave Jackson from Cave Sim. So.
Okay, any more questions before we let everybody go back to their life right now? Well, go ahead and let Adam answer any questions later. Just go ahead and email me, Adam, the webinars, and I'll forward it to Adam. And Adam, thank you so much for taking your time to put this together and being willing to head up something like this. It's amazing. It's a great public service. And I want to thank, oh, here we go. Here's one more from Cheryl. You said something like you can't wait until CPN raises enough money to buy its first cave. This is confusing. Will the caves bought with the CPN funds belong to the NSS or CPN?
Okay, so yeah, so let me back up here in the slide here. So, and I've heard some other folks sort of confused by this, but let me reiterate this here back in the very beginning. Okay. The CPN is an NSS program. Okay, so this program, as I written up on the screen here, was established by NSS Board Act 5960, which is in the bog manual. So and like I said before, the CPN fund is in NSS funds. So you know, if when this program comes to fruition, for say, and we start having new caves and new preserves, and we're all really excited about it. We're like, oh, we've purchased Shindo Cave Preserve or whatever. We it'll be an NSS Preserve, or like I said before, I'm not against if there's an amazing opportunity in California and the Western Cape Conservancy comes to us and says, "Hey, we have this amazing opportunity. Will you support it?" Then we can support it, because it's to support these kinds of conservation and preservation efforts. It isn't a selfish thing here. It's to do the best we can for the national caving community and the caves in the country as a whole. So I mean, it's most likely it would be an NSS Preserve, but I'm not going to say absolutely that's what it will be. But I mean, the money in the fund and the program are all NSS programs and funds. So,
Okay.
in fact, this year I think it's worth mentioning that there's 5 different conservancies in the U.S. that the NSS has given grants to of over $1,000, I believe. So it's something we do anyway. It's just we're hoping to do it better, bigger. So
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for attending. We really appreciate your attending. This is our first webinar on Zoom. All the webinars starting February will be on Zoom. We are no longer going to be using the GoToWebinar format. So starting February 1st, we will switch over. And from then on, we will have the Zoom format. So hopefully that works for everybody. Thank you very much for attending. We greatly appreciate it. Adam, again, thank you for taking your time to educate us and give us this information. This and all webinars, as I said, are stored on the NSS website of caves.org. That is where we keep all of our education information. Everybody, I want you to be safe. Take care of yourself. Cave safely. And we will see you on the next webinar. Thank you so much and have a good night.